Hey guys, Urban Ranch Lifter here. Just going to show you today how I'm making my concrete weights to go with everything else I've been making at home due to this COVID. Making a full workout gym at home, power rack and bench and all sorts of stuff. So thought I would post a quick video on how to make concrete plates. YouTubed a lot, checked in. A lot of it has no real instruction. They just kind of throw some things together and magically the concrete just shows up. So I'm going to kind of go quick step by step of how I'm building mine and the tools and things I found over building them. So first step is, this is the concrete that I'm using. It's a Quikrete PSI 6000. I like it because it doesn't have a lot of rock in it, but it still dries actually quite strong. So that's what I'm using. 55-pound bag, and what I find is I follow the instructions on the back, but I still find that the water content's not there fully. So when I'm making them, I go for a full bag of concrete. I use 3 liters of water. So 3 liters of water to 1 bag of concrete seems to have the best consistency for making the concrete. If you have a better idea, definitely leave it in the comments, because again, I'm always learning too. I just started doing this. So yeah, so you make the concrete, and in the end you'll end up with said concrete plate. What I'll do is I'll go through the list of materials you need. I'll also leave the list in the comments in the description so that you guys have something to work with. So first thing I do is, so I had to get some concrete forming tubes. I went to a specialty concrete store and I actually found 16-inch diameter concrete forming tubes. They were the closest to like a 45-pound plate size. From Home Depot, I also picked up some 12-inch, and I also picked up some 8-inch forming tubes. So to make the smaller weights, kind of keep it in the same look as what they look like when they're real iron weights. What I did is I just take masking tape. It's a 2-inch wide masking tape for a 45 plate, and I tape it on the flat edge of the sonotube, and I'd run a bead of tape all the way around the outside, just like that. And then I'd take my jigsaw and I'd follow that tracing of the tape all the way around, which would give me these 2-inch rings. I went on to concretecalculator.net, put in my numbers, which is 16-inch diameter outside, my inside diameter. This is 2-inch PVC conduit. I just cut it with a hacksaw, gave it a little file. I used some sandpaper and roughed up the pipe, and that just helps the concrete grab it a little bit better. And I took my compass, construction compass, and I made a circle. So I had the center point with right there. I had the center point, and I drew it with a pencil so I knew exactly where to put my ring. I take a little bit of crazy glue, stick it to the plastic, let that dry while I'm mixing the concrete, and then that won't move when you're actually pouring the concrete and surfacing it. So yeah, back to actually making the concrete. What I did is, to make a 45-pound plate, is I measured out 28.5 pounds of mix. Because of the water weight will turn into 30 pounds. So I have 28.5 pounds of concrete in the bucket. And then what I did is I went to a local boat store and picked up stuff called Lead Wake. Leadwake.com is who they get it through. And it's 50 pounds of lead shot. Now, I don't believe it's lead anymore. I think it's some sort of a steel, but that's what the inside of it looked like. So little tiny pellets. And the nice thing is, I find it mixes really well with the concrete. So what I do is I put my 30 pounds of, or 28.5 pounds of concrete powder into the bucket, weigh it, then I get my 15 pounds of lead weight, which will make now a 45-pound plate, which is what I have here. The tape idea I tried didn't work so well, so I went and did the crazy glue thing. The red is just this liquid cement color. Had it laying around, figured I'd give it a shot just to see what it looked like. I think it looks pretty good. So I got everything put together. I also have a drill that I made a homemade concrete mixing tool with it. Found it on YouTube. One of the people was made one and I kind of copied it. So YouTube is your best friend when it comes to anything DIY. So I just hooked it up to a power drill, and yeah, I'll run it up here in a bit. So what I do is, the most important thing is put your water in the bucket first. So it's nice to have, say, 3 buckets. One for your concrete powder if you have to measure it, if you're making more than or less than a bag full of concrete. A bucket for the water, because you always want to start with the water in the bucket first and then put the concrete on top. If you're going to put the color in, put the color in while you put the water in. So pour in the water into the bucket, add the coloring, use the whip, give it a mix, it'll clear up right away, and then start adding your concrete. Mix it up, it'll turn into a little bit more of a slurry. I like mine to be a little more pliable. I know that the more water you add, the less strong it is, but you know, I'm not driving over cars with it, I'm just using it for weight. So yeah, it's easier to actually get it into here and have it become nice and smooth, which you see here I have a couple air bubbles, which I can just clean up with a little bit of extra. So I make the tube a little bit taller than the ring, and all I do is I use a handsaw after it's dry and I just cut that end off. So yeah, I'm just gonna get ready here and make some concrete, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I got my water, and again, 30-pound bag, or sorry, 60-pound bag. I'm going to use 3 liters if I use the whole bag. I'm just making 1 plate today, so I'm going to use 1.5 liters of water, and I'm just basically going to pour it into the bucket. And pour the other water in. And then what you want to do from here is you want to add the coloring. So I'll just get the, this is just 118 or 1 ounce, sorry, something like that. Let's see, 1.18 ounce little Tupperware container. Basically, I just fill it up. Fill it up once. Pour it in, then I just fill it up halfway. You can put in as little or as much as you want, obviously, it's just going to make the color. So there's the thing. I'm going to take my drill and I'm going to give it a little bit of a stir. Just going to plug it in. Sorry for the shakiness. Alright, so just a nice slow stir, get all the pigment cleaned up. Okay, there we go. So now we're going to add our concrete. Alright, so I added the concrete, I put in about 2/3 of it, gave it a small stir. I added the last third here and I'm just about to mix it, so just run the drill nice and slow. Get it all bunched up here. See, it's a little bit wet. I might have just added a hair too much water, but that'll actually fix itself once I add the steel, and it tends to take a little bit of the moisture out. So I got that mixed up. Now I'm just going to add the steel. And mix that in. runny, so I think I just add a little bit less water next time. As you always learn, less water than if you have to add some, you can. And yeah, and I'm just going to clean up the whip, and then we'll get to actually pouring it into the mold. All right, here's the concrete. We got our tube glued down. So now basically, I'm just going to take this clump and put it in. Basically, we're just going to fill this up. Halfway, we're going to put the rebar in. You're going to poke it and tamp it, and then tap the sides to make sure you get the air out. So yeah, we'll be back. All right, so I got the concrete all poured in. Small tip, what I'm learning, again, they're just for your home. They're not for, you know, professional weight. They are a little higher than the form. What you can do is take 2-inch tape or even get a 3-inch tape and just fill the mold as full as you can, and that'll be whatever height it finishes at. I cut these to 2. It is what it is. So yeah, all I'm doing at the end is just cleaning the surface, make sure it's all nice and smooth. You know, it doesn't have to be, again, looks like a cake. Take the sides and just bring the water up to the top. And this is probably one of the most critical parts. And I did this the whole time I was putting in layers of concrete, so that it would just make sure all the air bubbles and any little gaps inside the concrete will come out. I've made a set of weights about a week ago and 2 weeks ago, and they've actually held up pretty good so far. So yeah, at the end you can smooth it out as best you can. You can put your gym brand initials in it. You can do whatever you want. If you're going to put initials in it, maybe just give it a little bit to set, and then you can stamp in something or make a drawing, whatever you want to do. If you leave it around where there's kids, chances are they're going to put their names in them. So yeah, smooth that out as best you can and let her dry. It'll be dry within about 10 hours. You could probably start using them within a day. Just gotta be extra careful. And yeah, that's how I made my concrete weights. Alright, one thing I forgot to mention is once they're dry, about 10 hours, what I do is I just take my X-Acto blade, I cut it, and I peel off the tubing. So you can see there, you'll have a little wedge just fine. Just take some good tape or sandpaper and give it a really good roughing. It'll clean right up. If you don't use color, you can always rubber coat them. Use that spray rubber coating. It tends to work really well. Yeah, just make sure you peel off all the paper. Let her dry for a day or two, and you should be good to go. Once again, take a handsaw, cut that off nice and flush. That'll fit right over a 2-inch Olympic bar. If you're making 1-inch weights for a 1-inch standard bar, just use some 1-inch PVC piping. You can clean them up, do what you want. But yeah, once again, thanks for watching. Take care, stay tuned for more from the Urban Ranch Lifter.